Obviously, if there's more, if we need to dig in deeper than we have time for today, we can, maybe isolate some things that
I
had to
can
come
come
out.
back anytime.
So, thank you.
We are.
Yeah, we are live and I'm not sure that the guest is somebody we all know, so maybe just a quick introduction.
Absolutely. Glad to be here for the record. Danielle Fitzko, Commissioner of Forest Parks and Recreation, here to share with you the governor's recommended budget for Forest Parks and Recreation. And I had the amazing
Steve Gomez, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Agency of Natural Resources, filling in on the budget piece for FPR since they're out without a financial director. So at the moment.
How long have you been without a financial director?
since October. But we have interviews, second round of interviews tomorrow. So I hope it won't be too much longer.
That position is budgeted.
Yes,
Okay.
we need it.
Yes.
Steve's amazing, but he's getting tired.
So you're covering for all three departments then?
Luckily, no. So I'm managing the Secretary's office budget, kind of the A&R like oversight, and then this piece, and then Fish and Wildlife and DEC. They have their own budget.
They have their own people who are in place.
So the person we're recruiting for would just be for FCR. Okay, so what you have in the email that we shared with you is a little bit more than we have done in the previous years. That's because both Appropriations Committee asked us to provide more information. So there's a lot here. We'll do our best to go through it with you, and I'm happy to stop at any point, answer any questions. I'll give you a little overview of FPR. I know most of you are very familiar with us. We'll talk about prior year fiscal appropriations and give you an update. I'll give you the department sort of overview, what's new in this budget that's not base. That includes work funding and some budget language suggestions for our Lands and Facilities Trust Fund. And then we'll go into each of the division's budgets. And then there's a bunch of reports and information that are there for you, but we're happy to go through any of those as well. I know you all are familiar with FPR, and our mission is that the department is responsible for the conservation and managing of Vermont's forest resources, operating and maintaining state parks, and promoting and supporting outdoor recreation for all Vermonters and visitors. When I think of FPR, I think of when they think about Vermont, I think they think about a lot of the service that we provide, our forest resources. We work so hard to keep them healthy, intact, and sustainably managed. Our state parks, 55 across the state. We like to say there's a state park within 20 minutes of every Vermonter, but it's also an economic driver because we get so many out-of-state visitors that visit our state parks this year, just under 1 million visitors this year. And then outdoor recreation, huge economic driver, really important to so many Vermonters. In fact, 90% of Vermonters say they outdoor recreate every year. Tomorrow is Outdoor Recreation Day in the State House. It's events happening all day, so I hope you can stop by for some of them and kind of sharing the celebration of the work. And I think we have a lot of momentum going, and look forward to that continuing. This is sort of my people slide, just to show you sort of like how we're organized. You know me, but I know you also know Kate Everly. She's our principal assistant. Kate's main role is to do legislative affairs. That's why you see her hanging out with you all a lot. She's also our head communications person for FPR. And then below that are our 4 divisions. I know you know Oliver Pearson really well. He's our director of forests. Nate McKean is our director of state parks. And Becca Washburn, I think she's been in here several times as well. She's our director of lands administration and recreation. And then our administrative division, that's the one that's vacant now. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I can come back and say that's been filled. We have 144 year-round staff. And then, as I think I've shared every year, that the summertime, we really blow up with seasonal staffing, mainly to support the operations of our state park system. But we also bring in staff to support state lands management. We have recreation staff that we bring in, and also forest land management.
Then Nelson.
Thank you. I remember last spring and the change into the national forest here in Vermont and stuff. Were you charged with helping out there or able to help out there? Or the fire suppression team we had to fire in Williston?
Yeah, we have a great partnership with the Green Mountain National Forest, and certainly on wildland fire, they come out and support local efforts. And I think they were on several this year because we responded to 12 events, and that's us going out and helping local firefighters. And then we also had temporary staff supporting timber management for them. And then we will be entering into a good neighbor agreement with them to continue to support their forest management activities. They're, because of staffing constraints, they have the financial resources, they have the timber management charge, and so we're offering support.
Thank you.
Are those FTEs or like positions, authorized positions?
These are, I think, are the authorized positions. When we actually get to the division budgets, I will show you the position and actually the FTEs, because in many cases, the FTEs are lower because we have several staff that are part-time, maybe working 80%. So our FTEs are a little lower.
Okay.
This is just a little bit more about our divisions and what they do. Our administration division, I think I could say they keep the lights on for us, honestly. They, as a team of 11, and they do all of our fiscal management, budgeting, personnel oversights, contracts and grants, accounts payable. So really just keeping everything moving so then the program areas can do the good work and service out into Vermont. Forest, lots of program areas here. I think there's 7 different program areas, everything from forest economy, watershed forestry, urban and community forestry that works downtown, forest health, wildland fire. So really robust, but our goal is to keep our forests forested, healthy, and resilient and managed well. Against state parks, we're really lucky to have, I think it's the crown jewel of Vermont, our state park system. They're fantastic. I think our sweet spot is customer service. We really take a lot of pride into that. The people come, they feel welcome, and they get the service that they need. And then lands administration and recreation. This one's is interesting because it actually has like 3 different areas of work. We have a land conservation sort of bucket here. So we conserve land that will eventually become part of A&R's portfolio of lands that we manage. And we also do conservation that is as easement on private landowners. So that's one bucket. They also do the recreation, which includes a lot of recreation grants out, but also supporting our partners and thinking about the long-term vision of outdoor recreation in the state. And they also support the overall lands administration for the Agency of Natural Resources. I have an agency function where they help our state lands in the planning and management sort of portfolio for the agency. So that's sort of our overview of FPR. I went quick because I know that you've seen it, you see it every year. This is an opportunity for us to share on 2 line items that were in the last year's budget that were kind of beyond sort of our general appropriation. One of them was a $250,000 one-time grant to the Serve, Learn, Earn program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a fantastic program that's workforce development with several partners. One of them here today with Audubon Vermont, but it's also Vermont Youth Conservation Corps, Vermont Works for Women, and Resource Vermont. And they really are workforce development in areas of thinking about, like, actually wrote it down here, building trades, conservation, agriculture, and education. One of the things I really love about Serve, Learn, and Earn is that beyond like the workforce training, they really have a suite of wraparound services for those participants. So in addition to sort of the trades, they also get like the wellness support, they get coaching for job placement. So it's a really good full package program, and they really have outstanding outcomes. So with pleasure that we are able to pass through funds each year to Serve, Learn, Earn. And we are actually a beneficiary because several crews work on state lands and do a lot of work in our park system and our trails, and even forest management, helping us remove hazard trees. That appropriation was granted out in August, and work is underway, continue at Serve, Learn, Earn.
That was a one-time appropriation, but have there been previous years where we've also put in one-time money for that?
Yes, there's a couple of years ago, I think it was actually even a $2 million one-time appropriation when there was more funds. I will also share last year that there was a $500,000 base fund that was put in FPR's budget that will continue, but it was in our base funding. So last year there was really $750,000 that went to Serve, Learn, Earn. 500 continues this year, and then the 250 on top was one-time funds.
And we, maybe we'll get to it, but is there also one-time money in this year's budget, or just the 500?
Just the 500 base dollars, not one time in our budget at this time.
And I guess I'll just ask the question that probably we'll ask for all things that sort of fall into this category. Just to help us understand if that money weren't there, if that 500,000, or the 250 in this case hadn't been budgeted, what would not have happened?
I can't answer directly for the program, but I would say you'd have less participants going through the program. I know last year, because of some federal money decline, I think they were 15% down. So they pull money from federal side, state side, and philanthropy to really kind of make a big package. I do have some stats here that I wrote down. In 2025, they enrolled 128 new participants and served a total of 280 participants. So I would assume that would go down quite a bit.
These are, it tends to be younger Vermonters,
Young adults.
adults.
Yeah. Mhm. There were, this is in 2025, 194 service projects and 56 in over 56 communities across the state. 22 affordable housing projects, 15 community construction projects, 73 outdoor recreation projects, 1 flood recovery project, and 30 habitat improvement projects. So workforce development, but really tangible projects on the ground.
Thank you.
The next one-time item was $275,000 for FPR to purchase a Type 6 fire truck, wildland fire truck. I think we were probably the only state in the nation that the state did not have a wildland fire truck. This is not something you go down to the local fire engine dealer and just buy. We have been working with BGS to put out an RFP. I was hoping it would be dropped this morning, but it's not there yet, but it's going to be up there any day. And we anticipate the build will still be about a year to 18 months. It's customized. But as we are responding to more wildland fire incidents, having this apparatus available to support response is really important.
Is that type 6 or a class 6?
The Type 6.
Okay, because a class 6 is like a 6-wheeler or a light 10-wheeler. And I don't know what a type 6 is. Perhaps it's like a 350 or F550 with outrigged with all the.
I wish I could give you the details.
I'm excited to see it when you get it.
I'm gonna send you all a picture. Yeah, I'm gonna send you a picture. I think it's because it can go and like recognizing that when we're called out to a wildland fire, you're going to pretty rough terrain. So you've got to be able to travel in areas like off roads, and then also have the hoses and everything else you need. So it's a little bit more nimble, I think.
And when you get it, Jed and I'd like to be there for the unveiling and the opportunity to drive it.
Well, you can come in the parade maybe. Yeah.
Needs getting tired.
I mean, what happens in the event that, a wildfire needs like aviation to,
Oh.
We got it this year.
Yeah, so we have, we can do a lot of talking about what it's like for us to respond. This year in particular with the drought we were on high alert all summer. In fact, our staff was out straight for a long time. And we start to prepare. So we have agreements in place with the Forest Service and with partners through the Northeast Forest Fire Compact, so we can call in resources from surrounding states. The Forest Service staged a helicopter here this year, and we actually used it on a fire in Williston. We were able to drop 11,000 gallons of water in Williston in like 30 minutes. And we chose to do that because there was infrastructure around with telephone communications and housing around. So we figured it was just best for us to take care of it quickly. So we're monitoring and start to pull in the resources when available. We had crews lined up from other states that were ready to come into Vermont if necessary. So we're just making sure the local team does what they do to respond, then we pull it up at a state level, and then if necessary, we reach out to the regional level to support.
so how do you budget for that?
Well, that's difficult. And this year, in the past 2 years, we actually had to put in a BAA request for our expenses. This year was a little over $100,000, which is mostly overtime for our staff because we are on call all weekend long or responding. It was also the helicopter. And then we also, the Green Mountain National Forest will come out and help us for 24 hours. But after that, we have to pay them. So Those were the three buckets of expenses that we had. But we're trying to figure out that, and we're hopeful that we have some proposed language that we have in House Gov Ops that will form a task force to look at what we need to be better prepared to respond to a large event in the future. And that would be like, what are the resources we need people-wise, funding-wise, equipment-wise? So we're not doing that work after we've had a large fire in the state. So we're trying to be proactive with that.
Would FEMA ever reimburse you for?
Yep, there's an FMAC program where FEMA will reimburse us, but it's got to be really urban infrastructure. So we're not quite, New Hampshire has tried and have not gotten funding, but Connecticut had a $2.5 million fire and they were able to get it. So we're not quite sure, but there is an equivalent sort of FEMA for wildland fire. Has to be over $100,000 for Vermont, and then we can pull in resources on a single event.
Danny, the National Guard they have a civil response team. Did they assist in any of?
They did not assist in that this year, but we do work with them collaboratively and are looking at how we enhance that partnership into the future. We're doing our best to train as many red card staff. A couple of years ago, we probably had 8 in FPR. We're up to 22, and we just had a train this morning trying to recruit more. And then we're thinking about what it looks like to recruit more red carded volunteers across the state that we can sort of pull in when necessary. So that's one of the pieces that we're trying to figure out. How do we build that capacity? But it takes capacity to build that capacity.
Like, this is something sounds like the committee might want to know more about.
Absolutely.
This larger question, so.
Okay. We're really fortunate that the governor recognizes the value of outdoor recreation in the state. We have the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative. This is a steering committee that helps support the economic growth, stewardship, and well-being of Vermonters through outdoor recreation. We've had a grants program that has primarily been funded by one-time funds. And in the governor's budget, he's proposing $500,000 for VOREC grants. This funding really is local economic impact. It really supports downtown, small businesses, tourism, and rural communities. It also supports stewardship of our trails. It leverages lots of partnerships, municipalities, nonprofits, regional organizations. You'll see them all here tomorrow. I think there's 120 people registered for tomorrow's event. Through our grant program, we have given out so far 85 grants in all 14 counties. That's a picture of where grants have been funded. We did not have any funding last year, but in FY25, we had $6 million in funding. And we had $13 million that we could not fund and 70 other grants. So the demand is really great. Communities are ready in the pipeline to go. We have invested $11 million so far. So this is just a really great opportunity for us to maintain our outdoor recreation grants. I know it's not going to meet the demand out there, but it will still keep the momentum going forward. I do have 2 projects that I could share with you that sort of highlight sort of the impacts of these grants. In Waitsfield, they received a little over $400,000 in grants. And the key benefits, like I wrote them down, I got this off their chamber website. It supported a welcome center that had all the information about the downtown businesses, the recreational assets, had trailhead amenities. So when people got to the trailheads, they also knew what was going on downtown. There was a bridge over Mill Brook that supported pedestrians and mountain bikers that then allowed access to 60 miles of trail. So it really just expanded the recreation network. They improved downtown crossings for recreation to make it safe for all kind of recreational users, and really an investment in sort of the stewardship of the trails. The Commerce said it drives business growth, increases visitor engagement, strengthens community engagement, and supports sustainability. So for $400,000 investment, you really have some proven community results. And then in Danville, with just under $100,000, they transformed the historic train station to a recreation hub. They updated the bathroom to make it ADA accessible. At the hub, they provide information about the recreation assets in Danville, in the region, and also opportunities to shop, eat, and explore in their community. We have a ton of quotes about the impact, but this one just stuck out to me. Increased sales have been reported due to trail users entering the village. So these grants really are sort of the three pillars of economic development, stewardship of our trails, like taking care of the land, and then also sort of that well-being, getting Vermonters and visitors outside. So the request here is for $500,000 to continue to support the grant program.
Nelson?
Do you get, like in Waitsfield or Danville, is there community match dollars or fundraising done by the communities to put towards these projects at all, or are they relying 100% on?
I can't believe I cannot answer that question. I don't believe it's full 100%. I do believe there's a grant match component to it. Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I know the building that they transformed in Danville was their old recycling center, and it was, the frame was there, but it wasn't much of a building. And so I'm assuming that there was
Other
other
money.
funding involved.
Okay,
You know, Chairman, we really owe Pat Leahy and Senator Sanders a big thanks because the Danville, Hardwick, all the way from Swanton to St. Jay, the funds that and the vision of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. That's why it's impacted some remote, not mainstream communities. It's opened up all sorts of East Hardwick. It's been fantastic.
And I'm not certain, but I think this isn't the only state investment that was made to help build that trail over the years.
Oh, no, yes, this was really meant to be like, this is a Danville project for the train station, but lots of money from the state and also federal government for the rail trail. And then the Agency of Transportation is the managers of the trail, that trail network.
This is helpful. I just wanted to say that I don't think we were asked to make room in our calendar tomorrow for anybody coming in for outdoor recreation day, which is fine. I'm sure that people are busy and we have a full day tomorrow. But I'm just thinking that we took 2 hours of testimony yesterday on $1 million grant program request, and we're taking another 2 hours this afternoon on the same $1 million request. So if you feel like there's more that the committee should know about this program, I know we've looked at it in the past.
Yeah.
Just wanted to.
We would love to share more about it. It's highly impactful program for this really small business.
You know, I'll check in with the committee, and I want to take the time now just to see in general what things we'd like to hear more about,
Yes.
if anything. So this might be one of them.
Yeah, happy to. They would do a much better job of telling
And I'm
us.
not offering your knowledge
Yeah.
necessarily, but maybe some additional time.
So that's one-time community grants. The next new item that I'll share with you is really budget language proposal. We have it's called the Lands and Facilities Trust Fund. And this is a fund that is managed by the Treasurer's Office in a high interest account. And all the funds that we get from uses of state lands. So think commercial, think of power, communications towers, or licensed and SU special use permits, or timber sale revenues, all go into this fund. And so then we can use a portion of that fund, 5% of that, to actually do stewardship work on the grounds. So we're looking to do some modernization of the language of how this fund is utilized in 3 main categories. One is where the language sits is under the Agency of Natural Resources Authority, and it says Forest Parks and Recreation. So this is just a technical correction to change it from FPR to A&R. The other piece is to clarify the eligible uses. Most of the funds all go to stewardship on the grounds, we'd like to expand the language to include administration support because most of the money goes out in contracts. And to be able to keep a little bit of the funds in to support our business office mainly that does all the grants and contracts. Because we can't get the money out if we don't have the in-house capacity to do that. So we're just asking for a little bit clarification so we can actually keep some for that administrative piece. And then to go from 5% to 8%. And we're considering that upgrade because of the health of the account right now. We have about little over $6 million in the account. We feel like if we go up to 8%, that account will still grow. And we will have additional funds that we could use on the ground for stewardship.
Representative Nelson.
I'm on the Waterfowl Advisory Board. And we have a little over $3 million in our fund from duck stamp money, and we had 600 and some odd $1,000 to spend. We spend just the interest. We don't spend all the interest every year. Or so when you're drawing down, 5% or 5% of you said you have 6 million in there?
Yeah.
So you'd be able to draw down 300,000 at 5%, or are you just spending the interest or?
Budget guy.
Well, this is perfect because I was the financial director at Fish and Wildlife and had oversight of that fund. So the way that the Lands and Facilities Trust Fund works is basically we can go back to previous 12 quarters, and that's where the 5% comes out. So we take the total account, total principal and interest in that fund. We can budget basically up to that 5%. So right now, the way the fund works is we don't dip into the principal at all. We use basically combination, depending on the year, of the earned revenue from that year and maybe interest. Based on the variables that we're using here, we expect that in a given year, we'll generate about $570,000 of income annually under this plan. That includes both earned revenues and interest. So under those assumptions, basically the overall fund would continue to grow. So our projections show that it would reach about $7 million in FY34. So you'd see that we'd be able to put more dollars on the ground, use some for admin time, and still continue to grow that fund long term. So
we also this year we requested that the funds we uncovered get extracted now and moved someplace, just in case we have a hiccup.
Yep.
Like we did in, what year was it? 22, 21?
yeah, right around there.
We all took a hosing.
Yep.
So the proposal is to change the distribution from 5 to 8% of an average value. Why 8%?
Yep. So basically the modeling that we worked on. So what we did is we looked at the earned revenue, which is, from a combination of sources for the fund. We looked at the interest rate, and then we also received a small amount of donations to that fund. So what we did is we looked at 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year averages for each of those. And then we took whichever was the smallest growth rate for all of those, basically built the model, and we wanted the fund to continue to grow in out years, so that based on all of that math, where you get at is 8% allows the fund to continue to grow at 1% a year, gets us to that $7 million in FY34. So, if we had gone to 9%, like the fund wouldn't really grow much. So we felt comfortable with, budgeting conservatively that 8% would allow the fund to grow still long term.
What, I'm sorry, I missed the 7 million by 2034. What's that?
So right now, at the end of fiscal year 25, the entire fund was $6.25 million. If we change it from 5 to 8%, that entire fund would still grow, and it would grow to $7 million in FY34 is our projection. So it's trying to provide like an understanding of like at 1% a year, basically that fund would reach $7 million in 7 years.
That's just a fun fact. That's not
Yes.
the whole in statute or
exactly.
anything. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
I think it's just sharing, like, it's gonna continue to
Yeah,
grow
for
even
sure.
if we make the change.
Okay, and that's assuming that, is that assuming market growth at any rate similar to what we've been seeing?
Much more. So right now, we are assuming 5% return for the interest rate. Looking at the last 3 years, it's been 10% in the trust investment account. So that's the state. We only have two options for investments. We have kind of like your checking account, right? Like you don't really see much. And then you have the trust investment account. That's where higher education fund, the duck stamp fund, these funds all sit, and the treasurer's office manages that. So that the last 3 years, I looked at the reports, and yeah, it's been 10% annual growth. So we're going 5%.
Wasn't the duck stamp fund the first ones to say, hey, we want our money working harder for us?
I believe that was 2012. Tom Decker, that was the director of operations, was the one that kicked that off. So,
And I was on that committee and we're the
Okay.
ones that requested it.
well, me taking that experience from Fish and Wildlife, we're trying to apply something similar here. So another step that we took with this is was it last fiscal year or 2 fiscal years ago? FPR took the same approach where now we benchmark to keep 90% of this fund invested in that higher yield trust investment account, which models the duck stamp fund to, again, make sure that we're generating as much interest as we can.
I'm pretty proud that we did that.
That's a conservative estimate.
John, did you have a question? No. Your hand up, Greg? Somebody? Okay.
I just could show you some of where the funds go if you're interested. I kind of thought about it and broke it out into 3 categories. There's on the ground projects, trailheads. Example, this year, funds are going to go to Stowe Pinnacle, adaptive mountain bike trail at Little River, Shrewsbury Peak, visitor infrastructure. Think of fire towers. We have 8 fire towers on state land. They need rehabilitation to preserve them, but also for safety reasons. So some funding is going to fire towers.
People love them.
I know they are a recreation asset in the state and a real draw. And then we're going to be doing a design for a dam removal in Underhill State Park. So that's sort of the on the ground projects. There's also we don't have a lot of money for operations of just general operations on state land. So this really helps with some core land stewardship and public safety, hazard tree removal, forest health and ash mitigation. We have to remove ash because they're infested with emerald ash borer in high use areas. Bombazine State Park is our highest ranked risk area, so there'll be funding going there. And then just overall vegetation management, like mowing along roadsides and introduce invasive species control. And the last one is workforce and capacity. We bring on state recreation trails crew, we train them. Think about areas that are outside of State Park, like Willoughby, high use area. We don't receive any revenue coming in. It's not a gate controlled area, but we do have to staff it. So these funds help sort of all 3 of those categories.
John, we gotta preserve paraquat so they can introduce their, invasive species.
Bill's on contact. Do any state parks have endowments? Like, do they come with endowments like your Taconic Ramble one? You know, you're buying it from somebody. Sometimes they leave an endowment.
Sometimes we do have funds, that would go in the park special fund. We do, in particular, lands and facilities trust fund, when we do acquire new lands that will go into A&R portfolio, we do try and get stewardship funds. We've started that over the past several years because recognizing that we will need money to care for those lands. So we do get funds and it goes into this pot. Any questions on that before we move on?
The Pinnacle Trailhead and Trails. Thank you. That's one of the most popular, if not the
It's
most
very popular.
popular, and the trail needs work. Will there be any parking? They park from 3/4 of a mile long.
I know, we did just do a
Upper
parking investment up on the meadow side. I can find out some more if there's any other plans, but we're always trying to work with the town and make improvements where we can. If there's available space for it, sometimes
There
we're
may not be.
constrained by, we don't want to put any more impacts on the land if it doesn't work. So
Thank you
sometimes that's
for
why we're
improving.
constrained. Yeah, we have what we call it project pipeline. And it is, we put our projects on state lands through a sort of review process by criteria, first public safety, hazard mitigation, then later access. and we rank them and we give them funding based on the priority. We have a $13 million list of projects, and I think we have about $1 million for all of our funding. We put federal money on the ground too. So we have a huge backlog of projects, and that was just for this year.
John?
Just quickly, how many fire towers in Vermont
8. Well, I don't know total.
on state lands?
Yeah, 8, I'd say that.
I see an eye with at least replacing some of those steps.
Yes, agreed, 100%.
Big value.
100%. We did put some federal dollars here as well. We got some money from Economic Development Authority that was based on supporting outdoor recreation. We put in maybe almost probably $500,000-$600,000 towards fire towers. So we try and pull from wherever we can. Yeah.
They're scary.
Careful. I know I'm going fast. I told you a lot that they're asking us to give you updates on. So federal fund updates. If we look back to FY25, I think last year I was in here, we were all nervous. We didn't know what was going to happen. Turns out FY appropriations, while there was a lot of confusion, turned out to be that there was really no material financial impact to FPR programs. Our funding came through like it had in previous years, and we didn't lose any competitive grant funding that was at risk. So that's good. FY26, that was just passed maybe a week ago. Again, confused, like worried because we're pretty much zeroed out in the president's budget, but passed by Congress. We're pretty much level funded again, which is good. We anticipate some increase in the Land and Water Conservation Fund. This is funding from the National Park Service. They primarily are funds that come in that we grant back out or put on the ground on state lands. We will see an increase because the revenue from this comes from offshore energy projects like oil and gas, and that's increasing. So that should go up. And then we are seeing a slight increase in urban and community forestry funds. If we actually do get those in Vermont, we'll probably grant those back out in our grants program to communities. An update on ARPA funds, because we did get $3.3 million in ARPA funds, which need to be spent by the end of this calendar year. We had 3 major categories, state parks, 3-acre stormwater management. Basically, just like everybody else, the state parks has to meet the 3-acre stormwater rule. And it's quite an investment, so we have funds to go to help us there. We have 19 parks that trigger 3-acre. We gave out funding to support urban tree planting, both at the municipal level and on private property, and then parks major maintenance, which was, I think, a wastewater project in Underhill. We are set to spend those by the end of the year. We have about $89,000 left at $3.3 million.
John?
Just quickly, do you also track sort of partners out there in forest world who may have lost money, like Northern Borders?
Northern Borders was actually okay.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, there was one that's we're still hoping maybe will come through with the Regional Conservation RCPP. It's through the NRCS, and there was funding to go to support landowners with projects, forestry projects on the ground. That was a $10 million grant that still has not come through. We weren't involved in that one. It was passed through money through others, but it's indeed the Department of Environmental Conservation was the grantee, but it has a forestry component.
And like government shutdowns, did those affect like our national forests?
Well, the National Forest could speak to sort of the changes that they have. Certainly staffing is something that's changed for them as well. The government shutdown for us was more just, we have less partners to work with during that time and things got delayed on our grants for sure.
The money up on the slide here does flow through the agency budget, so state budget. It's not, none of this is directly going to anybody else. It's all part of the budget.
This is part, yes, these are part of the ARPA funds happened previously in our budget, but the other federal funds will come to FPR. A lot of it does go back out. We sub-grant out a lot of funds to communities and partners.
Well, it's good news that
Yep.
the confusion was, hasn't been,
We're watching it, we're
yeah.
very engaged with our national organizations.
Yeah, the 89,000 that is unspent, what's the plan for that? Is it gonna get?
That is going to the 3 acre stormwater project, and they're basically encumbered in basically the projects are selected, it's just they haven't spent the money all the way.
There is a plan to.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
but actually, we're gonna be overspent in the end. We'll have to give capital dollars.
I'm just wondering if the 3.3 from ARPA is appropriated covers. It's not even gonna cover all the costs, you mentioned 89,000 is gonna be put into it as well, how much is the state having to pay toward that?
Well, we're really fortunate that we get funds in the capital appropriation. And we get about, in FY 26, we got the state parks $3.5 million to support infrastructure. So that's also helping to fund things like the 3 acre stormwater. We'll go over the capital dollars to help fund that. Our actual asset needs on state parks, if you look at, we have $280 million in assets. If we're gonna look at depreciation and need for investment each year, we would need $7 million a year. So we're doing the best we can and hitting our priorities and trying not to defer maintenance. But the reality is we're not keeping up with our portfolio like we should.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just that 3 acre stormwater management part, how much that costing, if you have that ballpark idea.
Of the 3.3, I think it was 2 million of it was appropriated for state park 3 acre stormwater out of that 3.3. So, and then 1 million for the urban and tree planting block, and then the rest for parks major maintenance.
But we,
That's how the split happened.
yeah, I think you're asking also like how much is our total anticipated cost to meet the 3 acre stormwater rule? And we have, I don't know the number, it's 19 state parks. And I don't know, several million.
Maybe we have you dig into that.
Yeah, happy to.
I just wanna kind of have an idea of how much is coming from.
Yeah.
Our taxpayer dollars. to do
Can you
that.
imagine a 3 acre rule out in the middle of the woods?
Well, these are in areas that have, yeah, they have impervious area. And that's pretty much 19 of our developed state parks, if you think of the roads networks.
Parking lots.
Yeah, parking lots and like you think of like the roads around the, the campgrounds.
Those are part of the assets.
Okay, I think you're gonna start hearing more from Steve.
Okay.
I think we're gonna skip over, did we skip over this budget?
We'll cover this in much more detail, so we don't have to do the high level. Yeah.
Okay. I can do this one real quickly. So basically in FPR, we have 5 different appropriations. So we have 5 different line budgets really within FPR that roll up to our overall budget. One is state parks. They're basically by division. You have state parks, lands administration, recreation, forestry, our administrative team, which includes the commissioner's office. And then we have this small fund called Forest and Parks Access Road, which is about $230,000 to support maintenance of our 600 plus miles of roads on FPR lands. Our total budget,
600 miles.
or more, probably a little bit more, but yeah, 600 miles. And total budget's about 55 million.
53.6, I think. is what we're at.
Federal and state funds?
Yeah, it's federal funds, state funds, special funds like Management Facilities Trust Fund, the State Park Special Fund, so general fund. That's everything.
Yeah, so percentage wise, we're about a third federal. How much is, probably 40% park special fund, then the rest is general?
Yeah, it's 17 million of state park special fund.
Representative O'Brien?
Jen, do you have any idea how much we're down because of Canadian visits?
Yeah, our Canadian, state parks this year just saw under 1 million visits, more day use than camping. Day use brings in the numbers. Camping brings in more revenue. We were 60% down in our Canadian visitation this year, and that definitely had an impact on our overall budget. It's just that's the reality of where we're at right now.
All right, that's.
Okay, so this gets into our budgets a little bit more. This is the administration division. I shared with you what they do. This gets into those position counts. We have 13 positions here, including our business office, And then Kate and I in the commissioner's office. 12.75 FTEs because one person is part-time. We do have one additional position. I talked about the Lands and Facilities Trust Fund. The federal government in the past couple of years has recognized they're passing us millions of dollars, but no funds to do admin work. They're now giving us admin money, so we're able to hire a position with that, which is great. New this year for this division is we have $33,000 proposed in vacancy savings.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure, I'll do it, and you can probably clean up after me. When we're doing our budget, in order to get to the number that we're looking for, we're anticipating that we'll have some vacancies and how much we're not spending on salaries and benefits, because we'll have vacancies. Right now, actually in the admin, we have 4 vacancies right now, so there's definitely will be vacancy savings. I don't want to ever see 4 again, but the reality is it's just part of the churn of employment.
So out of the 13 authorized positions, right now, there's only 9-ish actual people.
This is the division, most divisions are more fully staffed. This one just had a turnover moment.
So you could achieve that vacancy savings by filling 3 of the 4 positions roughly, or 3.5.
Just by natural process of hiring, there'll be time when that position is vacant and we'll be saving money.
And you said it's new this year to budget for that?
Yes, we had not budgeted for it before, but it's certainly a lever that we included this year. And it's real to have the vacancy savings. Okay, just an idea of sort of what the business office does. We're asked to share sort of outcomes. I mean, this business office is insane. 250 contracts a year they process. Think of all the state lands work, state parks, everything from plowing a trailhead to a $300 or $3.5 million maintenance shop. And then we have umbrella contracts, outgoing grants, over 160 a year. Incoming grants, over 100 that we're managing. 19,000 account payable transactions. The parks buy a lot of stuff, just tell you. And you have to think about ICE and all the food concessions, and just there's a lot. And then they oversee our payroll, which is a lot. Okay, so now I'm gonna pass it to this one to the next one. Okay, this is our budget for this area.
Yeah, so this is, some of you are probably familiar with this. This is the budget development form. So essentially the chart on the right, I've tried to consolidate a lot of those lines because they're duplicative and basically boil it down to the key changes on the left. So for the admin division, basically what you're seeing is the normal increase in salaries and wages, plus that additional position. So that's $110,000. The vacancy savings that Commissioner Fitzko had mentioned. And then essentially we're just increasing our costs have increased. So we're looking to meet that. So there's an additional $15,000 for legal services. So all of the attorneys and general counsel, they actually are, from an organizational perspective, part of the Agency of Natural Resources Secretary's office. However, they are also embedded in departments. So departments basically pay the Agency of Natural Resources Secretary's office for those staff. So there's a $15,000 increase for that. And then the items below, you'll see insurance, there's a $13,000 increase. Fee for space, which is essentially lease cost, $35,000. And then vision, which is the state's accounting software. We contribute to that, like all departments, there's a $35,000 increase. And then last but not least, there's a net decrease in the Agency of Digital Services cost by $113,000. For FY27, the Agency of Digital Services, they changed their billing model. So essentially what happened is they have something called the service level agreement, which used to basically capture software costs. Part of that has been now rolled over into this new billing called Core Enterprise Services. So there's this happened in the FPR budget where, because the service level agreement was mostly in the admin budget, you're going to see a decrease. But as we go through the other divisions, you're actually going to see a rather large net increase. And just to kind of give you a perspective, for the Agency of Natural Resources as a whole, our Agency of Digital Service costs went up by about $1.45 million. It's about a 76% increase. And that's been distributed to the individual departments and divisions. So you're going to see pieces of that through each of the different divisions.
76%.
Yes, for our agency, yes.
Yeah. So you can see you're not seeing the upward pressure in this one on that, but the upward pressure's in the other budgets.
Okay, Greg.
Thanks, Chair. So it says a positive 35K Vision ISF. Is that, what is total positive vision of it, ISF?
Let me I will check in on that for you, because it
Just
gets,
an example, I'm just trying to see like, is it increasing 10%? Is it?
oh, yeah, so it was 14%. Was it, yeah, so some examples here, the fee for space was a 15% increase, the vision piece was 14%. So those are kind of some examples of the comparative
Just to
percentages.
get a baseline,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
understanding. Okay.
Yeah, Richard.
And what was the percentage increase in healthcare?
Oh, that's great. I think we settled out. I think it was, I'm sorry, I think it was 10 to 15. Yeah, I think it was 10 to 15%. We did it in 2 phases this year with our budgeting. I think the first phase we budgeted 5%, and I think there was an additional 10%. So somewhere between 10 and 15% is where we landed.
Did the fee for space increase simply cover existing space? I know there's been a lot of conversation about the back to work order and how in some cases there's new rental space.
No new footprint, not for us.
Yeah, so and just as a little bit of background, what's labeled as ISF up here is internal service fund. So that's when our department agency is paying another department in state government for a service. So how those work is basically we receive like just a notification, basically, let's budget this amount this year. This is what the cost is. There's not like, we don't have like, like with some of our other expenses, right? Like the itemized movement. So like one of those departments, this would be BGS in this case, that would know kind of, what those moving parts are for that increase.
But we didn't expand our footprint.
No.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, to move to next.
Yes.
Okay, this is our division of forests. We have 64 staff. We do have 2 new positions that are grant funded on a limited service. We received a $5 million grant. We were worried about this one coming through from the Forest Service. We were going to hire 4, but we're hiring 2, just to be cautious. So they're on board. Our total count is 63 FTEs. Because of the salaries, the staffing size here, our vacancy savings is about 155,000. And I will pass it. I won't go through these, but you can look at them. Like we were asked to show some measurable outcomes. So we report on some outcomes each year. So there's examples of some of those that are in there for you. I'm just gonna go because I feel like you probably want budget stuff. No, forgot about this. We were also asked to share on grants that we give out and anticipate what was happening in 26 to what's happening in 24. Forestry Division doesn't have many grants that they put out, but there's 2. One's called Communities Caring for Canopy. These are grants that support local communities in sustaining and growing local urban forestry programs. $40,000 in FY26. We anticipate $40,000 in FY27 as well. If we do get more federal dollars in, like I mentioned, it would probably go right to this grant program. In previous years, we've had funding come in. We're able to offer $300,000-$400,000, but we don't know the federal dollars right now because we haven't seen those at the state level. And then wildland fire gear grants for rural fire districts. We offer 50/50 gear purchase, like PPE, hoses, and we give them the money to go. We used to actually buy it and they'd come pick it up, but now we give them the money to go buy the gear. No change there as well, unless we get more federal dollars in. Okay, back to Steve.
All right, so you'll see some similar things here. So the net salaries and wages increases, again, that's benefits, and that's also those additional positions are captured there. There's $1 million decrease for Economic Development Authority work. That was a one-time grant that was awarded to FPR in
Probably 24, 3 or 4.
Yep. So basically that work's wrapping up, and so it comes off of our budget sheet. For FY 27, FPR, there's an additional $300,000 budgeted for clean water funded work. That's goes through the Clean Water Board and the Clean Water budget process, which is separate from our annual budgeting process, but essentially there's an additional $300,000 for work there. The Forestry Division, they have an $80,000 decrease in their insurance internal service fund costs. So this is part of the property and commercial insurance. So there's two different types of insurances that we pay for. You'll see also in the state park slide, there's another large decrease in that property and commercial insurance. And then for this division, you see the large increase in ADS. So this is $263,000 up. That already completely offsets and shows a net increase when you compare it just to the admin division. And then there's an additional $1.1 million budgeted for new federal granting, for new federal funding. So.
Just speak to the very top line above the actual spreadsheet. I think it shows the sources of.
Yep.
Just sort of so we know what the framework is.
Yep. Yeah. So luckily with FPR, these are all but one of them is very straightforward. So the first column, general fund, that's, coming from the state's general fund. Next is clean water. That's money that flows through the clean water budget and board. The special fund, that is all of the division or department special funds. So that can include the state park special fund, lands and facilities trust fund, all-terrain vehicle fund, the snowmobile fund. I think you have maybe 10 to 12 different special funds. So it rolls those all up. And then we have federal funds. And then the last one there is interdepartmental. That is money coming from another entity in state government. So it's, another department paying for service or maybe us paying another department for service.
So the yellow line at the bottom summarizes then that basically adds up the column above. And if I'm reading it correctly, the federal dollars that are expected to increase by 1.3 million.
Yep, correct.
And that's because, how do we break that down? Why is that happening?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the main driver there is there's a new IRA grant that the Forestry Division receives. So that 1.1 million of that 1.3 million is captured just in that single new grant. So.
Representative Lipsky.
Yeah. On the Clean Water Fund, are any of the slow camp funds included in any of these?
No, there's no funding in our budget right now for slow camp. I know our team came and presented to you on that.
Thank you.
I can't see what time it is, but I'm guessing we're getting close or, okay?
We are, yeah, I've checked in with our next witness and let them know that we may be running a little bit late.
Okay.
So I think let's keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, was there another question now, John? Did you?
I just wonder, where do the ski area lease
That goes into park special funds,
special funds?
and that's actually the very next one. Quickly, 50 positions, almost 6 positions are FTEs, and then vacancy savings of 70,000. The metrics for state parks, they're awesome. Here's the budget numbers.
All right.
Don't feel you need to rush. We want to be sure that.
I know you have, the other ones you have in your PowerPoint that you can.
So with this one, looking at the key changes portion, the first 3 items there, so net salaries and wages, salaries for temps, and then the unemployment compensation and Catamount Health. Those are all increases basically to meet the cost of the workforce in FY 27. So as Commissioner Fitzko mentioned, there's about 450 seasonal employees that come on every year for parks. So, with, those temporary seasonal employees, there's a cost of living increase that you'll see there. Again, vacancy savings newly budgeted in FY 27. And then there's a few different cost increases here. There's an additional $160,000 for tree removal at state parks for emerald ash borer disease. And I think that, do you remember what the full cost of that? Because it was right, this is a partial.
Yeah, we're getting money, also money through Land and Facilities Trust Fund. We definitely we're doing our best to hit the highest priorities where we can, but we'll be seeing money for EAB for years to come.
And then there's an additional $65,000 budgeted for repairs to the Island Runner, which is the boat that runs to Burton Island State Park. So There's that piece, and then $70,000 for ice and food. So this is inflationary pressures. The parks system, they purchase these items for then resale to campers and day use. Just seeing a large increase in those costs. There's a $460,000 decrease for property and commercial insurance. This is the result of there was a large increase last year due to the previous year's flood. So as we kind of move along in time here, those insurance costs have now gone down because of the volume of claims. And then you'll see another increase here for Agency of Digital Services, just over $200,000 for state parks.
Is there budget, you mentioned some large number a few minutes ago, 70% or something.
76%
Yeah.
increase for the Agency of Natural Resources, yes.
And are other agencies seeing similar increases? Are they just ramping up what they do, or is there something else happening?
So my understanding is that there is, they've been operating basically with a deficit for years. And this is an attempt to partially correct that deficit and basically true up their bringing in the amount they need to provide this level of service that they currently do. So it's not like a huge increase in service. It's trying to correct basically past year's deficits.
Okay.
But I would ask ADS to be sure about that. That's just my understanding.
Representative O'Brien?
I just wonder what happened to the Island Runner, you give us those state passes, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Burton Island, and then I heard, oh, it's
It broke
closed
down.
here.
We couldn't get it fixed in time and get services, but the goal is to have a boat available for this year to get people to the islands.
It's like,
And then we have a long-term strategy of buying another boat that will serve at the runner and also sort of our land craft that can take garbage and wood back and forth. So we have like a 3-year plan out for getting people to Burton Island and stuff.
The drought last year, they must have ran it up on a reef.
Coral reef.
Tell you what happened.
John, another question here.
You've heard from me before about.
Oh, I know.
Embarrassing, I find the coin operating showers. We can't give people free showers. What would it cost in our budget to give people free showers in
I
our?
will ask that question. Probably
I
needs,
just find it so embarrassing compared to other states that we make people put a quarter in there to get a shower.
Halfway done and have to find another quarter.
Yeah.
Well,
We're just so, we're still a quarter.
people, keep the line shorter.
at least you could maybe
I just-
upgrade and use your phone, so you don't have to find a quarter.
It's.
I also cost it too.
I would be out a lot. if I don't
Right.
use the phone.
It's all contracted services be that one, way down contracted services.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that is a big bucket. Contracted services is everything from electricians and plumbers that need to come out to the parks to provide service. It could be,
Firewood.
yeah.
No, that's purchasing.
That's purchase, yeah. Yeah, basically it's anything that we have to hire
Plowing.
somebody out for, to come to the parks to do work, yeah.
Other than that, also, we got vision, ISD. Most of this is wrapped up in employment costs, correct?
Yeah, most,
Is food and reimbursement to employees for food?
no, that's purchasing food for resale at parks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
85,000? Yeah, that's good for just.
yeah, but yeah, when you boil down this budget, I would say over 2/3 of the increase is related to staffing. Like just keeping the same number of folks at work at the parks, so.
Okay, land administration, smaller division, 17 staff, just about 17 FTEs,
You're proposing 2 new positions there.
section 1.
Yeah, there's one new position that came on board. The position that was, I believe it was transferred from the secretary's office to that division for the wider lands planning work for the agency.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have funding from VHCB to support A&R lands planning, and then there's funding to support Act 59 inventory and work.
And then the other position is we changed software system for budgeting. Last year was Vantage, this year's Adaptive. One of those positions wasn't captured in the old system. So it shows 2, but actually it's really +1, but we just wanted to make sure it all reconciled to our budget documents, so.
First time for vacancy savings here as well at 35,000. great metrics about the work they do in this division. They, as I mentioned, they really give a lot of grant money out. Lands and Water Conservation Fund, that's a big one. We get about $3.5 million each year from the National Park Service. The money's meant to be split 50% in-house on state lands and 50% out to communities. The way we grant out is because so much money, we do it every other year. So in FY '26, it was 3.3 million. There'll be none in FY '27. And then in FY '28, it'll probably go up because I mentioned that was on the increase, maybe $3.6 million in FY '28. It's just an administration of our work. So you'll see zero this year. And then Recreation Trails grants. We have some money from Federal Highway Administration, a little bit of money from the state, from a gas tax, about $75,000. We grant out about $600,000 a year. We anticipate doing that again. This is really trail related work, where the Land and Water Conservation is like facilities. So you can do anything from a playground to a swimming pool, and also land conservation that supports outdoor recreation. So that's what that bucket's for.
Representative O'Brien?
Thank you. What do you budget for an FTE within?
Oh, probably around, depending on the pay grade, but I'd say about 150.
150?
Yeah, with your fully loaded benefit rates and everything.
All right.
It depends, like, right, like, that's just kind of our standard
Yeah.
rate, and then like if we, sometimes less, depending if we look at it, but yeah.
We just want to make sure we're budgeting, and then if they take, it depends on what benefit package they take, we will make sure we have enough.
And then also, right, there's like your laptop cycle,
Travel.
cell phone, yeah.
Good, we need to apply.
Representative Bartholomew?
The slide before that, the stuff down at the bottom, is that from this,
This is from FY '25, because we report at the end of the calendar year.
that's information for over a period of a year?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so this division budget's pretty interesting because there's a lot of large dollar amounts moving around, but actually, when you get down to it, not a whole lot has changed. So you have the normal salaries and wages and vacancy savings that you'll see for the first two items. This division had a $68,000 increase for the ADS billing changes. And then you'll see there's a $4.1 million decrease in land acquisitions, $3.8 million of that being federal funding. With land acquisitions and budgeting for those, one or two large projects can really swing that amount. So what you're seeing here is in FY '26, there was a large project budgeted that's coming off the books for FY '27. So we're just reconciling that. So looks like a large decrease, but it's just because that project will be completed in FY '26. Next, you have the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So basically what you're seeing there is your $4.2 million increase in contracts and a $3.3 million decrease in grants. And that's part of the Land and Water Conservation Fund cycle where every even or odd?
Even grants out.
Every even year it's grants out. So that's when we have a large grant amount budgeted. Every odd year is where we keep that money in house for projects. So you're just seeing that cycle there. And then the last item is there was a fund 21779, which I think was called the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps Fund. It was a legacy fund. There's no revenues actually flowing into the fund. The fund is zeroed out. For whatever reason, that number had been carried on and budgeted for, but we have no revenue, so no way to spend it. So we back that out of this year's budget to true it up. Again, no impact on that line item.
I know the history there, if that'd be helpful.
I think we need to keep going. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Love to get it.
Yeah, you guys can chat offline.
All right, the last one is, I mentioned Forest and Parks Access Road. We get to about $230,000 put on the ground for road maintenance activities. All this money goes out between operating costs and contracted services. It does not support any staffing money. It's really just on the ground work. And this budget sheet's pretty easy.
No
I
changes.
think that the rest is all reports, legislative reports, performance reports, pretty much.
We can peruse at our leisure. Yeah, Representative Nelson.
Yeah, so what was your total budget increase, adding all your different fields together?
Overall, it was a decrease because of the land acquisition, the $4.1 million for land acquisition. So it was actually, I think, just around $1 million decrease. So I think we went from like 54.5 to 53.6 million.
So if we level fund you, we'd have $1 million for working land. Okay, good to know.
So,
If only funding sources were split that way.
if we were to isolate that little anomaly, is there a clear way to answer the question?
But we built the budget with a 3% general fund increase. Pressures were greater than that, and so we made up a lot with federal dollars. I think we did budget a little bit more than the 3%, not much. And we increased, we were hoping to get more revenue through our parks, through the Parks Special Fund, and then really relied on a lot of federal dollars. And we've been very fortunate to be very competitive there. But I will anticipate, because right now we have our Inflation Reduction Act funds and some of the ARPA funds, those things will start to phase out. So we will start to see a decrease probably in federal funds in the next couple of years, unless the pendulum swings again.
This has been a really productive hour plus. So thank you for the new work that you were asked to do this year. I think maybe to not get too much farther off our schedule, we should stop here because I'm not seeing any hands. Individual committee members, feel free to reach out directly, I would say, to Kate if there are questions, and we'll have a chance to discuss this and see whether there's anything that we might have people come back in on. It's certainly, I mean, we could have, I'm sure we could have sat here for another hour really and gone through a little slowly to look at some of the spreadsheets, but no, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your attention and great questions, and happy to answer any more. I took some notes, so we'll be getting some things back to you.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So committee, we have one more agenda item before we break for lunch, and we're not sure who we're going to hear from. Okay, Amy.
I'll set you up.
Yeah, great.
And can you see how much time you're gonna allow for us,
Okay.
given your schedule?
We had budgeted 20 minutes. If we give you 15, which puts us a little bit into lunch, we can have you finished, come back certainly at a time that works out for everybody. I apologize for the fact that we're running a little bit late.
No problem. So I'm gonna make the suggestion that you hold your questions till the end then, so we can get our testimony in. Is it okay to start?
Yes.
So for the record, I'm Amy Schollenberger, and I'm here actually representing several of my clients. And I'll explain that in a little bit, but I'm joined by Connie Beal, and Ivy Enoch is on the screen. And also there are some folks here from the Parent Child Center Network who aren't planning to testify, but they're part of this proposal. So they're sitting in for moral support and also available for questions later.
Budget proposal.
This is a budget proposal, but it's also more than a budget proposal. So what we're going to talk about today is the proposal for benefit assisters to be funded in community service provider organizations. I submitted a handout about the proposal that's on your, I think Patricia posted it on your website. I don't have other written testimony. I'm just going to tell you a little story. But the main thing that I want you to know is that the proposal is fully outlined in the handout. I wanted to let you know how this proposal came about and what it actually is proposing to do. And then I'm not going to go into the big details about it, but I'm happy to sit with any of you or come back. So last spring, we, the Action Circles team, my team, realized that federal impacts were going to be serious and create some really thorny issues that the state was going to have to address. At the time, we didn't know what they were going to be. We didn't know how bad it would be or whether some of them might even be good, right? But we knew something was going to happen at the federal level that was going to impact the state in a major way. So we wanted to help our clients have a measured and judicious response to the impacts while ensuring the best possible outcomes for the people of Vermont. So what we did is we worked as a team at Action Circles and created a framework for our clients to use that asked a series of questions about, like, what do you know about the impacts on your organization, on the people that you serve? on your budget, all different things. And how can we, rather than just coming into the legislature with our normal way that we do budget requests every year, can we come to the legislature with requests or proposals that are actually responding to the context that we're in? And all of our clients work through the framework. And interestingly, independently, a couple of our clients came up with a proposal to have benefit assisters funded in their organizations. Some of them already do this work, but not at the scale that we're proposing. And some of them, like we have a lot of coalitions, so some of them, like a couple of the organizations in the coalition had benefit assisters, others didn't. So we flagged it as like, okay, we're hearing this from multiple clients. And then I saw an op-ed that Connie Beal wrote. She's not my client. And I was like, well, it's the same proposal. And then we started hearing it from other places. So at that point, Joint Fiscal Committee was meeting and allowing testimony. I went in and testified about this at the Joint Fiscal Committee, just saying, this is something that's coming up. I want you all to be aware of it. And then we heard from more people, like we're thinking about this too. So Connie and Ivy and I worked together. We sent out a survey to as many community service providing organizations as we could get to. Common Good Vermont also helped and asked, do you want to be part of this? Do you want to help think about it? And we pulled together a coalition to build the proposal and calibrate it to the capacity of the organizations, that were contemplating this and also the need on the ground. So we've been working with a little over, between 16 and 20 organizations. And the ones that are, the logos are on the back of the handout are the ones that are included in the funding proposal. Plus, there's also funding included in this number. And Ivy will talk about this a little bit, to meet the increased match requirement for all of the SNAP outreach partners. So that money is folded into here. And then also, for instance, there's some money for increased capacity for 211 to refer people to providers. And there's some funding for the Vermont Language Justice Project to help with translating materials. So it's really been amazing to work with this group of organizations, some of which, frankly, I had never talked to before this moment. And it's been a very much a team collaborative approach. They've really helped each other think about how to build the budgets that they needed. They've really helped to think about, what are we actually proposing? They're all in on this proposal, which is that all of the organizations who have a funding request in this proposal are committing to having their entire organization, checking with the people that they serve. Are you on SNAP? Are you on Medicaid? Did you get a letter? Do you need to upload some documents? Do you understand what's going on? If they're not on SNAP or Medicaid, maybe you're eligible. Let's check. Let's get you enrolled. There are trainings for both SNAP and Medicaid. Ivy's going to tell you about the SNAP one because that's where your committee, really has the most interest to do this work. And then all of the organizations will have staff capacity to actually help the people stay connected to their benefit programs, particularly SNAP and Medicaid. They may also enroll them in other benefit programs, but this proposal is really focused on SNAP and Medicaid. And the reason is because our state is at great risk for many, many people losing these benefits. And that's terrible for the people and their households. It's also terrible for the state. Millions of dollars coming to our grocers through SNAP would be lost. Millions of dollars supporting our healthcare system through Medicaid. would be lost if people fall off of these programs. So it's kind of a win-win-win to keep everybody on. And this is an organic proposal that came from the community of service providers to address that issue. So Ivy is going to go next, and she's going to, if that's okay with you, Chair, she's going to sort of dig into the SNAP side of it a little bit. And Connie's here to sort of explain how she's with Working Bridges. She's going to talk about what that looks like and also what it looks like to actually work with a person to do the benefit assistance.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Ivy, I'm trying not to have it run too late. You can, help us understand why this is important to have now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chair Durfee and committee members. For the record, I'm Ivy Enoch. I live in Burlington, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director here at Hunger Free Vermont. And I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss with this committee the strength and the importance of benefit assisters in communities across Vermont. So every month I facilitate a meeting of 30 to 50 people representing organizations across the state who serve as benefit assisters for Three Squares Vermont, among other programs, directly in their communities. This is called the Three Squares Vermont Work Group, and our mission is to reduce barriers and maximize participation in Three Squares Vermont. Attendees of the Three Squares Vermont Work Group include the 10 official SNAP Outreach Grant partners of the state who work to increase access and awareness to Three Squares Vermont, and who will be impacted by the reduction in the federal share of SNAP administrative costs come October of this year. So it also includes, in addition to those partners, which are community action agencies, area agencies on aging, the Vermont Food Bank, it also includes Vermont Legal Aid, healthcare centers, as well as partners from NOFA Vermont, staff from Economic Services Division, who are responsible for administering Three Squares Vermont, and members of our congressional delegation staff. So this is a group with many years of experience and expertise in navigating not only Three Squares Vermont, but other Medicaid, Medicare, fuel assistance applications, and in connecting people to programs like Crop Cash, which I know you are very familiar with. So this group is a really essential core group of benefit assisters and partners. We collaborate on and we develop tools to overcome stigma, gaps in awareness, organize joint outreach efforts across the state, and really learn from each other about application assistance best practices and study program roles to ensure a depth and accurate understanding of the policy. I think this group was especially important at two critical moments in the last couple of years. The first that comes to mind for me is emergency response during summer flooding. As you well know, Vermont endured catastrophic flooding in 2023 and 2024. And during that emergency, many folks, lost their homes, saw damage to their homes, including loss of groceries. And Three Squares Vermont participants were able to receive replacement benefits to compensate for lost food. And were temporarily able to use those benefits to buy hot foods at grocery stores. But the question is, how do you get the word out about this very technical, very temporary availability in such a moment of crisis? And the Three Squares Vermont Work Group of benefit assisters really played a critical, essential role in communicating this information to communities, including being trained on how to actually help folks request those replacement benefits. The second critical moment was and still is responding to those historic SNAP changes passed in the federal budget package, HR 1. This bill, as you know, went into effect July 2025 and really marked the largest ever cut to SNAP and Medicaid. So it made deep funding cuts and eligibility changes to this program. I know you have heard testimony from my colleagues and others on the details of those changes, but I just want to remind us of those eligibility changes and the fact that they went into effect in October of 2025. So there were changes to how households report monthly utility costs. There were changes to the existing work reporting rules that limit access to 3 Scores Vermont to 3 months in a 3-year period for adults. And then there were changes in eligibility for many immigrant community members. And in total, those changes impacted more than 7,000 3 Scores Vermont households, either by terminating their eligibility or requiring them to report new information to keep their level of monthly benefits. And 3 Scores Vermont, while it is our most effective food security program, it is also a complex program. And Benefit Assisters help people decode this program, decode the application process, understand what documentation is needed to verify their information, what to expect in the mandatory interview. And I think the importance of this service really couldn't be more apparent than when we saw those major changes in eligibility with HR1, right? The 3 Scores Vermont work group worked and continues to work really closely and tirelessly with the state agency and with each other to ensure a comprehensive understanding of these changes and how to communicate them to clients, how to answer questions about confusing notices, and support folks in keeping their benefits if they still qualify, or help explain why folks maybe lost benefits. In addition to 3 Scores Vermont Work Group, Hunger Free Vermont hosts quarterly trainings on 3 Scores Vermont eligibility. So we cover application assistance, best practices, positive messaging, outreach strategies for benefit assisters. And last year we trained more than 800 people in these processes to inform their benefit assister work. And between work group, these quarterly trainings, and the institutional knowledge that just exists in community serving organizations, we have a really strong network of benefit assisters. And Vermont is often lifted up as a model for other states because these trained benefit assisters, they not only ensure a really unified understanding of 3 Scores Vermont statewide, but they support our state agency as they process applications that are completed accurately, right? Done in partnership and support by a benefit assister. And this is really important in the effort to maintain a low SNAP payment error rate. So benefit assisters improve the human experience of navigating paperwork, phone calls, and documents to access basic needs support like money for groceries. And it really can't be overstated that benefit assisters are responding now to many complex program changes and greater needs. And investing in this existing network of benefit assisters at trusted organizations across Vermont will, as Amy said, have a multiplier effect by helping eligible people continue to receive those federal 3 Scores Vermont benefits and keep those federal dollars flowing to our grocers and our farmers and our overall economy. I know we all, together want to ensure the best possible outcomes for people living in Vermont, and benefit assisters exist to do just that in their communities and in your communities. I thank you so much for your time. I know we're eating into your lunch hour, and I look forward to discussing the value of investing in this existing network of compassionate experts further. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ivy. I want to be sure that the committee just understands what we're talking about here. Does everybody sort of get the idea that it would be to fund positions that would make sure that eligible Vermonters, eligible for SNAP and Medicaid, maybe others, would be able to get those benefits. They can be confusing. I think we all know how things can be confusing. I know we're not talking about Vermont Health Connect, but I could have used a navigator, a more accessible navigator on Vermont Health Connect. And I know we had another witness. I'm wondering whether we could just keep it very brief.
I will be very
because-
quick,
Right.
because I see you're hungry and I won't take a lot of your time. In
Thank you.
fact, I won't read word for word what I have to say. For the record, my name is Connie Beal. I am United Way's Working Bridges Director with United Way of Northwest Vermont, which is a program that is shared between Green Mountain United Way and United Way of Northwest Vermont. I am a working parent of 2 children, and I live in St. Albans City, which I love. And I'm here today to share a little bit of perspective from working Vermonters and employers we partner with in Northern Vermont. Over 30 employers that we work with across 44 different work sites, with a reach of over 20,000 individuals who are working and are adult learners in our community college system. Our work at Working Bridges is really about helping employees keep jobs and advance in jobs and to really have financial stability to be showing up to all of the demands of our days. And I'm here with this collaborative to share the perspective of helping people who rely on these benefits to show up to their jobs. The team of resource coordinators that we work with provide benefit assistance. And, just to name the impact of ensuring that eligible Vermonters have food helps people to show up at work. It helps them to stay healthy, to have healthcare access, also helps keep them in the workforce. I know you know these things, and in my written testimony, you'll see some data points that might help shed light on that and what I'm referencing. But as Amy shared, it's a win-win-win. It's good community economic development if we're supporting people with their most basic needs, especially as we face a workforce shortage and need more people to be working. The folks that we serve at Working Bridges rely on food to take care of their families. Hardworking Vermonters use 3 Squares Vermont to help feed their family. We know a good job alone does not guarantee stability. And that's where we come in. We work with employees confidentially in workplaces and help them navigate complex resources in community, both hyper-locally, statewide, and even nationally. It's our role to serve Vermonters so they can stay at work. They can go back on a manufacturing line. They can go back and take care of patients. We're mostly working with essential workers through our program, and folks who have great jobs, who are well benefited, still need services like 3 Squares Vermont. I share an example of an employee that I recall working with recently who, due to household changes, went through a very difficult separation, was at work and approached me as their resource coordinator and asked what they could do to help feed their family without having enough funds to spread around. And we know food is the thing that people will opt not to get when they don't have enough. It is that they will eat less. They won't get the food that they need to stay healthy. They will use that money to pay other things that are so essential, like transportation and showing up at work and being able to put gas in the car. And we see that every employee that we connect with, and this person in particular had children at home. And while they earned well, were well benefited, they didn't even know they were eligible for 3 Squares Vermont. They didn't even know to ask. And when I talked with them, they had to kind of come to me and accept that they were asking for help. And it's a very hard thing to do because in our culture, we believe that if you work and you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, that you should have all of your basic needs met. And we know that's just not true. People, have all sorts of things that happen. So that's the story, ultimately being able to help that person right at work to complete that paperwork, submit it, helping with computer access really met their need. It was a hyper individual way of supporting someone confidentially while respecting the dignity of work. And what I can share is through our program and through that relationship and that trust that we build over time, we can connect back and forth. And now that person knows they have a trusted person they can connect to when they get increased verification requests, when they get the request for work authorization information, when all that person has is a smartphone. And then there are additional barriers and challenges that I really want to drive that home is that the community organizations that we partner with and we work with in this proposal, they are the trusted people for so many of our community, for so many of us. We really rely on them. So I will leave it at that because I can see that you're very hungry. I can feel that. And so I want to let you get to your food, but I want to thank you for your time, your service. I also encourage you to support the proposal, to look at it, ask questions, review the material, follow up with us because we would really love to answer questions as it relates to food access and making sure workers can eat and show up. And thank you.
Thank you for staying a little bit late. And I don't personally think I knew anything about the program So.
okay.
Always fascinating to hear what's going on out in the rest of the state.
Thanks for having time for us today.
I and thank you, Ivy, thank you, me too. What I'm gonna suggest to the committee is that we've got a very full afternoon and of course a hard stop for the floor at 3:30. If we could get, and I want to also recognize that we all need time to A, eat and B, maybe return phone calls, et cetera. Maybe we could be back here at 1:10 sharp for the second half of the day.